just waiting for 7 o'clock until a few more people arrive, and then we can get started. So thanks for joining. I'm like, hi everyone. We're just waiting a couple more minutes until more people join. I think there's issues with the signing in link, so just give us a couple more minutes and then we'll shoot off. Thanks so much. Hello, hello. Hi everyone. Can everyone see and hear me? I'm not sure whether mic is working, camera is working. Yes, perfect. I can see some thumbs up. Okay, I think we can just wait a couple more minutes. We'll start at 5 past for those that are fashionably late. So we'll just wait a couple more minutes. So in the chat box, because this is quite an interactive session, so in the chat box, just let me know, who you are, like what you do. I think most people are GPs, so let me know, where you're signing in from, whether it's London, Bristol, Manchester, so what city you're in, or what town, and also whether you have a specialist interest and why you've actually signed up to this webinar about weight loss. So I just want us to be interactive, otherwise you're going to have me babbling the whole way through. And I'm so hot, I'm going to put on the fan. If the sound gets distorted, just let me know. And I'm going to share my screen with you. One moment. You can see Amanda, aesthetic and a private GP. Excellent. Diabetes and weight loss. GP from Manchester, locuming, good. So there's still some locum shifts about because they're like gold dust now. Menopause, such a diverse group. And research lead, that's a new one. I'm remote GP for Bupa. Excellent. Welcome, welcome. And we have Chuck here. So you'll see someone that's always posting links, and that will be sort of links like my LinkedIn if you want to connect with me, ask me questions afterwards, and other links like sign up links, etc. So let me just share my screen and we can start because it's 5 past now. Okay. Let's say. joint injections minor surgery. Asthma, excellent. Let's share screen, enter mode. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen. I can't see you, but I have Chuck here that will let me know if there's anything going wrong. So it's on my WhatsApp, and he'll also be sending you links. I'm so sorry. This computer is very slow today. Okay, so welcome everyone. You are in the right place. This is a webinar on ThanksDoc, Uber doctors, and also how to launch your private clinic. And this week we are talking about weight loss clinics. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about skin clinics, but this week is going to be weight loss clinics. And we have a really excellent GP and weight loss expert that's going to join us later in the second half. So in terms of what we're going to discuss today, is my screen changing? Frozen. Yeah, so agenda for the day. We're going to talk a little bit about us because I know that some people are new here. I know there's some people that came 2 weeks ago, but some people are new. So we just want to have a quick whistle stop tour through about ThanksDoc and what we're doing and just updates on what we're working on at the moment and also how we work. And then we've got Dr. Sue Kennelly, who's going to join us. So she's our weight loss expert. So she's going to take us through her weight loss clinic journey. She runs her own weight loss clinic. She's internationally known, and she'll be here to answer all your weight loss questions for people that are really interested in starting a weight loss clinic as well. And you can ask questions throughout. I can't see the questions, so probably when I pause, then I'll have a look at what's happening in the chat box. Okay, so who are we? So ThanksDoc, we are the only digital and physical doctor on demand service in the UK. So we do online consultations, but also physical face-to-face consultations. And we do this through our partner pharmacies. And that's how we have this Uber for Doctors model. So patients can go to the pharmacy can organize a doctor, and the doctor will go to that pharmacy and meet the patient and do a consultation in the pharmacy consultation room. That's how we work. So we match doctors to businesses who need doctors. So we're a business to business to consumer model. So we're not direct consumer. So we work with businesses, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, who have patients or clients that need doctors. So what do we actually really do? We really want to empower GPs to work flexibly, to be valued, to be well paid, and to avoid burnout. So we're all here for the GPs. So, I think I'm a bit stuck. So about me, so who am I? So I'm Linda, I'm a GP. I've had a long journey of entrepreneurship. I've worn many hats. So I was a GP supervisor. I had my own skin clinic in Harley Street. I've done clinic consultancy. So I've helped a lot of other clinics actually start up. So these are including menopause clinics, IV clinics. And I thought, actually, yeah, I've done a lot of aesthetic clinics. So why not bring this to the GP market, especially because the GPs are struggling a little bit at the moment with the sort of lack of funding and lack of work. I've done cosmetic formulation, so I started my own skincare line, and I've done courses. You can see from the photos that those are my ladies from my course groups. I used to run a course on how to treat darker skin types and how to do chemical peels. So you can see I do a little bit of everything, and that's why I've now started up ThanksDoc to see actually whether we can help you start your own clinics and also help you work more flexibly. So make sure that everyone can hear me. Perfect. So how do we work? We work in two ways with GPs. So we have our Uber for Doctors model, and we have our private clinic model. So you can do one option or you can do both options. So our Uber for Doctor model is just that you sign up to our platform, you get pings of jobs. So jobs can be anything from a quick 15-minute online consultation or a 3-hour private menopause clinic at your local pharmacy. So it just depends. Different pharmacies have different demands depending on their location and their demographics. So they'll actually come up to us and say, do you have a doctor that does, I don't know, testosterone replacement therapy, or do you have a doctor that does joint injections? And they'll hire a doctor for, a clinic every Saturday morning or something. We also have a private clinic model. So we're really trying to empower GPs to have ownership of something. So to launch their own private clinic, and you can come under our CQC umbrella. So we'll sort out the regulations, and we'll also sort out the infrastructure. So you'll also get access to electronic patient records, electronic prescribing platform. So everything that you need to run your own clinic, we can get it set up. Okay, so we've discussed the Uber for Doctors model. So providers that we partner with, where the NHS, of course, private companies, so especially private healthcare companies, law firms. So this is particularly, we have law firms, so especially law firms because they are usually time poor, cash rich. So they really want things done quickly and they just want a quick service and very efficient. So that's why law firms have been onboarding pretty rapidly because they really like the service because it's flexible, it's efficient, and it's speedy. We have online blood testing companies, so blood testing companies that sell online blood tests, and then if there's any abnormality, they want a doctor to follow up. But these companies, it's not cost efficient for them to have a doctor sitting there 24/7 to be discussing online abnormal blood results. So that's why they actually partner with us, so we can be their doctors or their GP providers for that service. And we have many, many more partners. In 2 weeks' time, we're actually going to have our partners coming on board just to discuss in terms of what they want from ThanksDoc, what they want from the doctors, how we would work together. And we also have our interns, they're doing such a great job onboarding lots of different partners, and they are going to talk you through some of the really exciting partners that they're actually onboarding at the moment. And I think our interns are with us. I'm not sure if you can wave if you're here. So services that you can offer while working with us. So everything that a normal NHS GP will do is what a private GP will do, and more, and probably even faster. So things like joint injections, hay fever injections, travel vaccinations, airwax removals, referrals for scans. So you can offer a number of services when you're working under our Uber for Doctors model. So in terms of private clinics, how we work, so we work to get you and your clinic up and running within a week. So some clinics are faster than others. Some of them just need sort of a website, all the infrastructure, and they're good to go. Others can take a little bit more time, but we work with a lot of different partners in order to offer you this at a really cost-effective price. So with us, you'll get your CQC done. We work with medical indemnity insurance providers, so you can get actually insurance from as little as £9 a month, and this is all dependent on your earnings. So when you see this sort of a fee, is mainly I think the cutoff is if you earn 3,000 a year from your private work, then you're paying £9 a month. Anything more than that, so it's in tiers. So actually, we work with really great indemnity companies that can offer you insurance for that price. We can help you find your clinic location. Again, we give you access to like the electronic medical records, and we include all your consent forms. So we're like a great partner that if you want to just get up and running and quickly and just test in the water to see actually, is this something that you like? Is this something that you want to go into? Then definitely recommend partnering with us. I've got a couple of examples of websites. So we help you set up your own website. I think there's a link. I think, Chuck, you can leave a link. You can have a look at our demo site where we can create you a website that looks like this, and it's done within a week, and we can integrate WhatsApp, we integrate the booking platforms, we integrate the telehealth consultation, so the video consultation platform. So we integrate everything to just get you started within a week. And I think we're offering it for 500. I can't remember at the moment what it's probably at. It's around £500 in comparison to others that can cost thousands of pounds. Okay, so we won't really go through why you need a website. It's quite obvious, but it's how patients find you. 10% of patients search online before booking a healthcare appointment. So it's really important that you're visible. And even if you're not ready to launch yet, it's important that you get your website up just so that Google can start to rank it and they can start to index it. So it takes sort of 2-3 months before your website is visible to Google. So Google actually combs through your website, can see the sort of words you're using, so understands what your website's about, and then starts to rank it. So it's really important actually, even if you're not ready, just get your website up and running. We can put a page that says, coming soon, so no one's booking in with you. But it's really important just to get your website done and started if you're really interested in running your private clinic. So why are we doing this? Okay, catchphrase. Does anyone remember catchphrase? I'm showing my age here, but I'm not sure whether you guys remember catchphrase. I'm catchphrase queen. So if anyone knows what this means, I want to see where actually I can You can probably shout out. You can probably shout out because I can't see what's happening. I can literally only see my presentation, so I can't see what's happening back. So if you know what this catchphrase is, then sort of shout out. And this is why we're doing this. So the question is, why are we starting this? Why are we
Ostrich
actually
phenomenon?
ostrich coming in?
Phenomenon.
Good,
Ostrich phenomenon.
good. Ostrich phenomenon. Yes, yes. But say what you see. Say what you see.
I think the person is just GP is just burying their head in the sand because they're worried about their reality.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you both for pitching in. Exactly. So bury your head in the sand. You don't want to face what's going on out there, so you just pretend. You act like the ostrich and you just bury your head in the sand, but it's not going to go away. So it's really important that we do something about it. And you can see the headlines. GPs work in unpaid sessions to avoid losing their license. That was one of the recent headlines, I think, this week. Who would have thought that this would ever happen? That you're actually having to work unpaid sessions just so you can stay on like the performance list and you can do your minimum 40 sessions a week to be registered. So we've got this headline as well. Newly qualified GPs retraining to work as medical coders or bus drivers. There's a job crisis where GPs are going on universal credit and registrars are failing exams deliberately just so they can stay in that registrar role and keep getting paid. Um, Thousands of GPs are still struggling to find enough work. And you can see here there's a rise in the number of patients per GP. So I think this was June last year. So I think now it's probably about 2,300 and something. I'm not sure what it stands at now. But as you can see, there's a rise. There's rise in population. So of course there's going to be a rise in the number of patients per GP and changing GP pay. These graphs are literally just like sea slope. So you can just see the change in GP pay. It's meant to be going in the other direction. Actually, you can see what's happening with the trends that GPs are being paid less and less in real term equivalent. So there's a record low satisfaction for NHS GP services. So you can actually see patients are saying that they're not really satisfied with what is happening in their general practice surgery. So what's going to happen? UK patients are going private to escape referrals black holes. Yeah, almost 1 in 8 Britons now have private medical insurance. So people are actually just deciding that, we're not happy with the NHS, we'll rather prefer to go elsewhere. So this is the time actually to do something about it. So this is another catchphrase moment. I think I'm just entertaining myself here. So another catchphrase moment. Say what you see. What is happening here? Are you going to be this GP or are you going to be this GP? What's happening here? What is this analogy? Shout out. I can't hear you. Otherwise, I ruin it for everyone. Okay, you probably you probably got it, but this is like the frog in the boiling pot or boiling water analogy. So it's just basically saying that if you put a frog in cold water and then you boil the water slowly, the frog boils to death because it just gets used to the pressure, the heat, everything until it just boils to death. If you actually have a pot of boiling water and you put a frog in, of course it's going to leak out. So, are you going to be the GP that's the frog in the boiling water and just accept all the rubbish that is going on at the moment? Or are you going to leap out and think, okay, let me look for a plan B? I promise that's all the catchphrases for this presentation. So there is a demand for GPs, no matter what all the stats are saying, there is a demand for GPs. And it might be actually that you're going towards private services. So we want you to open your own private clinic, help patients by doing what you love when you want. Now we're going to move on to talking about private clinics and weight loss. I think, let me just double check, 2020, right on time, private weight loss clinic. Before I go into it, I'm just going to double check if we're having any questions in the chat box. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. I'll move on. Yeah. Sharing. And fantastic. Okay, so let me just have a quick look at the chat. ostrich phenomenon. Fab, excellent. Hi, Fab. Burying head in the sand. Okay, jump out. Good, good. You guys were enjoying the catchphrases. Fab, fab. Okay. How long does onboarding take? So it's mainly to do with the compliance. We just have to have a look at your compliance documents. We are going to go live on the 1st of August, but it will be, we're doing it in batches because we have like a wait list of 4,500 GPs. So we are waiting to do all the compliance checks. On the 1st of August, we'll be releasing the GPs onto our platform, but in batches. We want to do it in a really controlled manner because safety is paramount. So it'll be batches of 10. Once we know actually after a month or 6 weeks, the GPs are fine, then we'll start to release in batches of 50 every week. So that's as per our CQC policy. So we can't just sort of let everyone loose at the same time. We have to just do it in a controlled fashion. I can see Sue. Hi, Sue. Sue's going to come and join us shortly. So I submitted all my documents. Yes, Sam, thank you so much. We have seen your documents. They're all coming in thick and fast, and we're going through all of them, which is great. So there aren't many questions, which is good. I think everyone's sort of hot and bothered, and today it's really, really, really hot. That's why I'm in a different room in the office. So local GP, excellent, fantastic. So when will GP first? Okay, when would Uber GPs be running? So 1st of August. So we'll be running the Uber GPs 1st of August. Excellent. So I'm going to just quickly share the screen again, and I'm going to just introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Sue Kennelly, who is here, and I'll just have it talk a little bit about in terms of why weight loss. Why have we focused on weight loss clinics? Because actually there's a demand. A lot of the GPs were asking, okay, are you going to be teaching anything about weight loss? Are there going to be any courses released regarding weight loss and the GLP-1s? You know, there's a massive trend in weight loss. I'm not sure. Can you see my slides? I'm going to just keep rapiding on unless Chuck messages me on WhatsApp. So we know that the UK weight loss industry is worth over £2 billion annually. And 63% of adults in England are overweight or obese. That's a huge number. That's more than half, 63%. So 63% of the population can be your customers. So they're overweight or obese. And searches for Ozempic weight loss increased by 4,000% in 2023. So that's a huge number. Let me put this block of view. So we know with social media, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, they've all driven up the surge in demand because these are very, photographed platforms. So people just put on their before and afters. There's lots of these TikTok weight loss gurus that actually just started their own channels on talking about their journey with Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. So this has driven up the surge because it's actually made people more aware. So it's increased the awareness that something is available for people to help them, especially people that have been struggling with weight loss for a long time. Also, employers and private medical insurance companies are now funding private weight loss, private weight management. So a lot of people are accessing these services through their insurance policies. And 1.5 million prescriptions, over 1.5 million prescriptions of GLP-1, so like the weight loss medication, were issued in March alone of this year. So the trend is only going up. And I'm working with pharmacies that actually are having a shortage of the weight loss medication only because the manufacturers are limited and giving sort of quotas. So some pharmacies are getting even a more increased demand, even though the medication is not available for them to dispense. And online pharmacies are doubling in sales in just 6 months. I think I read about a pharmacy that increased its revenue, so the turnover, by over 600% in just 6 months by just offering GLP-1. So that's the sort of the money and the figure side of things. So I'm going to actually hand over to Dr. Sue to talk about the more holistic and in-depth aspect of weight loss. So just to introduce Dr. Sue, I'm not sure whether my screen has frozen. Just to introduce Dr. Sue Kennelly. So she's internationally recognized and well renowned. She is, one moment, the owner and director of the Freedom Clinic. So this is her own weight loss management clinic where she provides remote consultation and weight loss medication prescription. So she is a nutritionist with a master's degree in nutritional medicine, and she is a founder member and a regional director of the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine. So we are working in partner with Sue to bring about a CPD accredited weight loss clinic course, just so that you guys can feel confident and you guys can feel supported in prescribing weight loss safely and how to go about setting up your own weight loss clinic. So I'll hand over to Sue. I'll stop sharing my screen. I'm not sure, Sue, probably unmute yourself, but
yeah.
I'm not sure whether you wanted to. Let me just stop sharing mine. Whether you wanted to share yours.
Yeah. So thanks everybody. Lovely to see you all. Let me just share. Find a window. That looks like the one. Okay, so I'm like Linda was a minute ago now. I can't necessarily see anything. So can you see my talk? Can you see the first slide and slides moving? Yeah. Okay. Hi. So wonderful to be here. Thank you, Linda, for having me. And hi to the one or two of you who I already know. It's nice to see you here. Nice to have some moral support. So yeah, I'm Dr. Sue Keneally, and this is a combination of different slides from various talks that I've given in various settings. My key message to patients about their weight is it's not your fault. I think if we could change that conversation in the UK, then we would change the obesity landscape completely. So what I always try and start my talks by saying, look, it's not people's fault. So this talk is going to be largely clinical, partly because I work for one of the big online pharmacies who you've all heard of. And if I say too much about the business, then that's a conflict of interest. So Linda can talk to you about the business, but we'll touch on that. But this is mainly a clinical talk. So let's run through. So about me, Linda's introduced me very beautifully. I still work in the NHS. I escaped general practice just over a year ago now, and I was doing very little of it anyway. But in the NHS, I work as a tier 3 weight loss physician in 2 different services. There's only funding for me to work in each of them 1 day per week each. So I do 2 days a week of that. 2 days a week working for a big online pharmacy, and then 1 day a week, hopefully, working in my Freedom Clinic. So 30 years of experience, that's why I've done so much. I've just been around a long time. And yeah, I'm known as a leader and teacher of colleagues in the field of obesity medicine. In 2022, I taught a cohort of 20 GP colleagues to be leaders in obesity medicine themselves. I've written a chapter in a book. I haven't written a book yet because I don't have time. And I'm sort of a TV star. I did a Panorama episode just over a year ago. You won't see it now. They take it down after 12 months. But you might have seen me standing outside my NHS office saying, Wegovy is a game changer to the camera for Panorama. So anyway, that's me. So this is the logo for my little clinic. I called it the Freedom Clinic because talking to my patients, I wanted one word where they would read it and say, this doctor gets it. That's what I need. So for me, it's freedom. Patients who are coming to me to look for weight loss advice, they want freedom. They either want freedom from guilt, shame, stigma, disliking the way they look, or they want freedom to go on a date, go out for job interviews, go on a plane without using a seatbelt extender. That's a big one. But they all want freedom from or to something. So it's very straightforward. I see them all with an initial video consultation. That's non-negotiable. I have to actually see them, and they have to send me a copy of some photo ID so I can verify it's them. And once we've done that, then it's all about follow-up, so email and questionnaire, and video or phone consultations as needed. And then my website is largely available to most people, but if you sign up for free, to follow me, so essentially I've got your email address so I can write to you, then there are more top tips on the inside of my website, and I try and remember to write regular updates and news, but that's something I'm needing to work on. So why a weight loss clinic? Oh, well, Linda's covered this very well. I'm a little bit obsessed with weight management. In my heart, I am a weight loss physician, so that was the only thing I was ever going to set up. So I'm glad that that's done. And that was frustrating for the first 20 years of my career because there was no such thing as a weight loss doctor. And so I didn't know what sort of doctor I wanted to be. And I was consequently fairly unhappy. But found my home now, and it's lovely. As Linda said, there's 1.5 million people using injectable weight loss medications in the UK every month. We make profits from both the consultation. Obviously, you charge people for your time, but you can also make less of a profit, but still a profit from repeat prescriptions. I use a pharmacy because I'm not a pharmacist myself. And so the pharmacy charges me X amount for, say, 2.5 milligrams of Mounjaro, and I charge the patient X plus a little bit for the privilege of having the prescription from me. And that's where I make a lot of my money. In fact, I make most of my money doing that. The gap in the market, there will always be a gap between the MHRA licensing. So that's saying, for example, with Mounjaro, it's body mass index of 27, as long as you've got some health comorbidities, or BMI of 30 if you don't. But that's not what the NHS does. The NHS criteria are higher. You've got to have a higher BMI, and also to get to my NHS clinic, I've got a 5 or 8 year waiting list, depending on which one you're waiting for. There is a huge bottleneck, and this will always be the case. Because there's always a gap between what the MHRA says is licensing and what the NICE actually approves. And why weight loss? Because my patients love me. I've got one lady who refers endless patients to me, and I keep saying, I need to give you a finder's free. You can have pens for free, anything you want. And she says, my darling, you changed my life. I already have everything I need. I'm not taking anything else from you. So it's wonderful work. I feel like Father Christmas every day. So the patient journey, so they book an initial appointment through my website. There's a link directly on my website for them to do that. If they phone, I've got somebody who answers the phone for me. I pay them about £100 a month to do that for me, and they can book patients in. They've got access to my site, or they can WhatsApp me. That's a new thing. I'm a bit nervous about that because that seems to be quite labour intensive. So my system sends them an initial questionnaire that I can look at to make sure they're eligible before I take any money off them. Then they have a video consultation for 30 minutes. I send a prescription electronically to a pharmacy, and the pharmacist delivers the medication to the home address. The pharmacy is highly regulated. They're one of the recommended ones by the people who make Mounjaro, and we use DPD. So it's all very high quality, very highly recommended stuff. A couple of weeks later, they get an email asking them what they want to do next. They can either choose to have the same dose, or they can increase their dose by 1, or if they're on a middle dose or a high dose, they can choose to decrease it if they're getting side effects or they're trying to come off the medication because they're getting to target. I review the questionnaire, and there's always an option to say, I don't know what I want to talk to you. So if they say, I want to increase by 1 dose and I don't have any side effects, the weight's coming off, I'm happy and everything looks good, then I just take another payment with the card details they've given me and send them another pen. If they say anything on the questionnaire like, oh, I've got some new health problems, or I've got some worrying side effects or anything like that, and I want to talk to them, then we arrange to talk. If we're both happy and neither of us wants to talk to each other, then we keep doing pens and questionnaires until they get to their target weight. And it seems to work fairly effectively. So let's talk about some clinical stuff now. What causes weight gain? This is the Foresight report, or a picture of the Foresight report, and it's supposed to look a total mess. Okay, so this was written in 2007, and it was written by essentially all the top minds in obesity in the UK at the time, which did not include me, but included a lot of people I now know. And essentially what it tells you is there are about 100 causes of weight gain in the UK, and almost all of them are beyond the control of almost all people. So if you've got top left, the yellow part, that's social psychology. The green left-hand side is food production. All the bits around the outside are the things we can't control. And then in the middle, you've got food consumption, what you eat, and individual physical activity, how much you move. And those things contribute about 5 to 10% of people's weight gain. The other 90 to 95% is beyond most people's control, because it's societal. It's about government policy. It's about the poor quality food that we're all given. It's about our built environment. It's about sedentary pastimes. It's about sedentary jobs. It's about literally almost 100 things that conspire to make us all gain weight. So that's why I say to people, it's not your fault. So that's a slide that summarizes it. And at the bottom, we've got physiology. So here comes the science, as they say. So just a 101 on appetite regulation. So your appetite suppressing hormones, ones you might have heard of, will be GLP-1 and GIP. Those are the ones in Wegovy and Mounjaro. Then other ones of interest are glucagon and amylin. We're going to be having new weight loss drugs coming out in the next couple of years that are going to be affecting those. So CagriSema is going to be coming out probably next year. That'll work on GLP-1 and probably, I think, glucagon or amylin. I think amylin. In about 2 years' time, we're going to have retatrutide, which is going to be the world's first triple agonist, which is going to work on GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon. So those are the relevant hormones in terms of appetite suppressants. There are others, but we haven't worked out how to manipulate those yet, so I haven't mentioned them on this slide. And then you've got your appetite enhancer, which is ghrelin. Yeah, that's your appetite hormone, makes you eat, which is a good thing, because if you don't eat, you don't survive. So ghrelin is your friend, but only if it's appropriately secreted, and that's the problem in our current environment. So let's talk about set points. Set point is the tricky thing that a lot of us fall foul of. So I don't know if you've ever heard the story or you have experienced this yourself, where you're just going along nicely in life and suddenly you think, oh, actually, I weigh a bit more than I want to. So I think I'm going to go on some sort of weight loss program, some sort of probably diet and exercise to begin with, because almost nobody reaches out for medication first. Everybody tries the diet and exercise first. And probably your first diet's fairly effective. You lose weight and that's all good. And then strangely, your weight seems to creep back on, and there's no real reason for it. You know, maybe you're eating slightly better, slightly more, and you're maybe treating yourself a little bit more at the weekends, because after all, you're your target weight now. You can relax a bit. But strangely, it just seems to go back on. And the odd thing is that you end up weighing a little bit more than you did before. So you think, well, this isn't great. I don't like this. I much preferred my lower weight, so I'm going to diet and exercise again to get back down to where I was. And this time it seems a little bit harder, but you get down there and you think, okay, great. And strangely enough, it seems to all just go back on. It doesn't seem to come from anywhere in particular. You know, maybe it's been Christmas and you've gone on a nice holiday, but really, other than that, you've been sticking to it. But strangely, the weight's just going back on. And oddly enough, this time it goes up to slightly higher than you were before. And this keeps going. That's called yo-yo dieting. And that's essentially your set point in action. Some of us, not me, are blessed with a set point that stays the same throughout life. But for most of us, our set point goes up throughout life. And that's a protective factor, because your brain does not know that you live in the 21st century and you have Greg's on speed dial. Your brain thinks you're a hunter-gatherer living on the savannah, relying on hunting and foraging for food. So when you start losing weight, your brain has no way of knowing that you've done that intentionally. Your brain thinks you're starving. So when you've lost weight, your brain goes into panic mode, and as soon as food becomes available again, because you relax a little bit and other changes, which I think we'll talk about in a minute, your brain frantically makes you, without realizing it, subconsciously put the weight back on to protect you, because it now knows that you live in a place where it thinks famines happen, and so it's going to protect you from the next famine, because it knows that you live somewhere where famines happen, and it protects you by putting on more weight than you had before. And when you start losing weight again, your set point kicks in again and thinks, gosh, this person lives in places where multiple famines happen. I'd better put even on more weight. And so this goes around in a vicious circle until you end up in my NHS clinic with a BMI of 45 saying, but doctor, I barely eat anything. And they're not lying. They've just broken their physiology. So that's what set point is. So causes of return to set point. Well, if you say, for example, I'm going to make the maths easy, you start eating, you're on 2,000 calories a day, that's most people's average, and you say, right, I'm going to reduce my calorie intake to lose weight, I'm going to reduce to 1,800 calories. Eventually, you will lose some weight, but eventually your brain will kick in and say, oh, 1,800 calories, really, that's interesting. Okay, I will learn to manage on 1,800 calories. And so your metabolic rate will reduce. Without realizing, you'll be slightly less active, you'll be a bit more sedentary, and only minutes and seconds per day, but it'll all add up. And before you know it, you're managing perfectly well on 1800 calories a day. So your weight loss stops. So you say, okay, I'm going to go down to 1600 calories, and your brain says, okay, well, you better lose some weight then, but eventually stabilizes and say, okay, well, if 1600 is all we've got, that's what we'll work with. And suddenly you're on 1600 calories a day and not losing weight. And as I say, that's how you ended up with a BMI of 45, eating almost nothing, and you're in my NHS clinic crying to me. You also get a reduction in your GLP-1 and GIP, which are the ones that we're interested in with the weight loss injections. You get an increase in your ghrelin, your hunger hormone. You get massively increased pleasure and reward from your treat foods. So your favorite chocolate cake or your garlic bread or whatever it is, that really, really is food heaven for you, suddenly looks 100 times more appealing than it did before. And when you taste it, it tastes utterly divine. And so you end up eating more of it. And we've all got two systems essentially that run our appetite. There's the homeostatic system, which is your leptin and your ghrelin and all their friends, who will keep you to within 10 calories of a calorie intake on any given day if you let them live. But you can override them very easily with your pleasure system, and that just kicks into really high gear and sends you out looking for treats. And that's what essentially causes your return to set point. So lifestyle interventions, they're not really effective in the long term. If you go really hard, you can lose about 8 kilos and keep it off. That's great for some people, not for people in my NHS clinic, but it's good for a lot of people out there. But ultimately, set point usually kicks in and starts sending you back to where you were, sending you back up your 8 kilos. Just to cover causes of increase in set point, it can be the dieting. It can also be just life events, so things like leaving school and getting a sedentary job, or getting married, so you're not going out dating anymore, you're sitting at home on the sofa. It can be stressful jobs, childbirth, marriage, menopause. They're all things that can increase the set point, and ultra-processed foods are known to increase set point as well. So lifestyle interventions, if you want to do the best, then diet and exercise is the best. Exercise is not your friend when it comes to losing weight, because you have to run about 39 miles to burn 1 pound of fat. But when it's keeping weight off, exercise is brilliant. And there's no evidence at all that exercise or lifestyle lowers your set point. So ultimately, your set point will kick in and start nudging you back in what you think is the wrong direction, because you want to be lower than you are. So what do you need to do? And I say this to patients all the time because they cry when I tell them this. Don't despair. You might be above your set point without realizing it. Are you honestly living the most healthy diet and exercise and all the other things about lifestyle medicine? Are you doing all of those consistently all the time? If you're not, then you're probably above your set point. So the first thing is to find your set point and see where you are. You might be happy with it when you get there. You never know. Most people try that and get to a point where they say, no, I'm still not happy, so that they come back to me. So let's talk about weight loss medications. So weight loss medications, Wegovy, it's associated with 14% weight loss on average, which is brilliant in terms of your metabolic health and sleep apnea and diabetes and aches and pains and all those sorts of things. Won't necessarily make you slim, not for most people. But in terms of metabolic and general health, it's brilliant. Anything more than 10% weight loss tends to put you in a different category from that point of view. So it works by increasing GLP-1. It's a weekly injection. And this is a slide that I sometimes show to patients. So it's a little bit patient friendly. So it slows GI transit and also sends a direct message from your stomach to your brain through the vagal nerve and to the GLP receptors in your brain, telling you that you need to eat less. Also turns down your food noise. We didn't know food noise was a thing. I say we. The people who made Wegovy didn't know food noise was a thing. And when I was prescribing it initially, I didn't know food noise was a thing. And patients all over, certainly the US and the UK, were going to their doctor saying, I haven't got any food noise anymore. And we were saying, what's food noise? Because we thought we were just manipulating GLP-1. But patients told us there's this thing called food noise, which is the little thing in your brain going, eat your treats, eat your crisps, eat your Mars bar all day. That people with a healthy weight tend not to have. I have when it's a quiet one. If I'm stressed, it tells me to eat things that are slightly less healthy than I would otherwise be eating, but it never tells me to binge and it never tells me to overeat. Whereas people who have real food noise, have a constant voice in their head that's always in the background, talking to them about what they need to eat next. And it's never healthy food. It's always the treat food, the pleasure food. So that's food noise. Wegovy probably has anti-addictive effects. People on Wegovy say they don't want to drink much alcohol anymore. Some of them reduce their smoking. I've got one lovely patient who's reduced hoarding. She's not compulsive shopping anymore. And Wegovy reduces the magic set point for as long as you take it. In the same way as Ramipur reduces your blood pressure for as long as you take it, Wegovy reduces your set point. Hurrah! Mounjaro, 21% weight loss on average. This is great. That puts you in a completely different category in terms of your health. Works on GLP-1, our old friend from Wegovy, and also GIP. It's similar to Wegovy, but it's stronger because it's working on 2 hormones. What was that? Sorry? I didn't hear that. Okay, I'll carry on. It's a weekly injection again, similar to Wegovy, and it also reduces set point. Brilliant. Challenges. Okay, so contraindications, there are a few, and the big ones are pancreatitis, a history of thyroid cancer, and problematic gallstones are the big other ones. There are other cautions that you wouldn't necessarily think of, and in the big pharmacy that I work for, we often get messages from patients saying, but my GP said it was fine. And I sit here thinking, yes, I was a GP for 20 years, and I'm sure your GP checked the back of the BNF for interactions and said, or probably online these days, BNF, and said, oh, there's no interactions, this looks fine. But there are nuances, things like it can induce malabsorption, so you've got to be careful on warfarin and other medications. And for instance, if you've got inflammatory bowel disease, maybe it's not a good idea to be taking something that might give you diarrhea, vomiting and constipation, because is that a flare of IBD? Is it a side effect of your GLP-1? We don't know. So that needs careful consideration. Potential side effects, about 50% of people get some sort of side effects. Sometimes they're just mild nausea, gassy burps, eggy burps are fun ones, diarrhea. Pancreatitis is really rare. I've only had one patient get pancreatitis so far in my own clinic. And she messaged me and said, oh, it's fine, you know, I'll just go into hospital and get my pancreas fixed every couple of months, crack on. And of course we can't. You have to stop it if patients get pancreatitis. And strangely enough, I didn't ever see her again because she was very sad. And the other problem, of course, is we promise people 14 and 21% weight loss, but these are average weight losses. There are some super responders who do crazy stuff, and there are some people who respond very little. And sorry, fellas, the tall men are the people who lose out. They need the highest doses and they have the slowest response, and they tend to be among the non-responders. So some people get very angry because they, especially privately, they've spent upwards of £1,000 by the time we realise this. And it's been all a very expensive mistake, which is tragic. So those are the challenges, or some of the challenges. Weight loss surgery, we need to cover this in a weight loss talk, and I'm also building up to the CPD course that Linda and I are going to be doing. We can cover this in more detail, but you need to know about it. Weight loss medication only works while you take it. Surgery is permanent. There is a limit to how much weight you lose on medication, and there's a limit with how much weight you lose on with surgery as well. It's up around 30 to 40%, which is better than the 20% we've got with Mounjaro. And of course, once you're done, you're done. You don't have to keep taking it. Retatrutide, we believe, is going to be about 30% weight loss. So we're catching up with the surgeons, but we've still got this thing where you've got to inject it every week, and it's got potentially horrible side effects. So the surgeons are still winning the race at this point. But at the moment in my NHS clinic, if you've got a BMI of 45 and you want to lose weight for the next 20 years, we point you in the direction of the surgeons, because I don't have a drug that's going to take 35% of your weight off you and keep it off you long term. So in that case, you need to go see my surgical friend down the road. So that's weight loss surgery. So just to run through it, gastric sleeve, it's not fitting a sleeve. It's taking away most of the stomachs of the sleeve. The stomach becomes sleeve shaped. We used to think it was a procedure that worked by shrinking the stomach. I'm running out of words these days. I've been talking all day. But actually, what we're doing is removing ghrelin, because ghrelin is made in the stomach, and it's mainly made in the fundus, which is the bit that we take away. I say we, the surgeons take away when they do a sleeve gastrectomy. And it also increases your GLP and similar hormones. So not to be entertained if you get gastric reflux, because it makes gastric reflux worse. And I have known a patient that had to be fed by an NJ tube because she had such intolerable vomiting from having had an inappropriate sleeve gastrectomy abroad, we'll just say. Gastric bypass, a bit more complicated to explain. So essentially, when food has contact with the lumen of the first part of the bowel, the duodenum and so on, that triggers a big hormone cascade, which tends to induce weight gain. So as the phrase suggests, the operation bypasses that bit of the bowel. And so you don't get the hormone triggering. Similar weight loss to the gastric sleeve, bit more complicated to live with, things like dumping syndrome. Weight loss is more permanent, and people tend to do marginally better with a bypass, but there are more potential complications and it is a bit more difficult to live with. So this is essentially the end of my talk. If you remember one thing from my talk while you're talking to patients before you got your own clinic set up, or maybe you're planning a skin clinic or a something else clinic, weight gain is not people's fault, okay? There are 100 causes of weight gain and they're beyond the conscious control of most of us. The main question is to ask, why do some people not gain weight? And the answer is probably set point. Genes and other health problems can make it more difficult to manage, but this isn't inevitable. About 40 to 70% of your body weight is inherited, which means 30 to 60% of it isn't usually. So you do have a lot to play for. Diet and exercise accounts for 5%. It's not much, but it's worth optimizing. Remember your set point and your pleasure trap, because they are your ultimate problems. Medication's great, as long as it's prescribed appropriately and it isn't suitable for everyone. And surgery is also safe and effective, but it's a bigger undertaking and it's big, scary, permanent stuff. And patients often are very reticent about doing it. And there's my Freedom Clinic. That's the little logo. So it's all video consultations to ensure safe prescribing. Medications delivered to people's door. I use one of the most reputable pharmacy. That does mean I have to pay them more, so I have to charge slightly more. So I always tell my patients when they say, well, you're more expensive than MedExpress. I say, yeah, I kind of have to be because I've got a middleman, but also look at the quality, darling. You know, I'm doing marvelous things here. And a number of them are very happy with that. Okay, and if anybody wants to keep in touch, there's me, freedom@drsukanini.com, or Linda's got my details. You can keep in touch through her. And that's me. I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. That was really insightful. And I literally learned so much. I felt like I was in like med school again, just like soaking it all in. There's a lot that I didn't know about weight loss medication. I think we've got some questions in the chat box. Not sure whether you can see.
Right. Yeah, I'm back in the real world now. I can see the chat box. Okay. Okay. Gosh, lots. So yeah. I wasn't looking at this before I started.
So a lot of me just spamming with links.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think there's been a couple of physical questions.
Demo website.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to shout them out to me? Probably easier.
Is there a higher cutoff of BMI where it needs referral to surgeons?
So, sorry, can you say that again?
Oh, yeah.
Licensing.
Yeah. Is there a higher cutoff BMI where it needs referral to surgeons?
Not needs referral to surgeons. In fact, there's more of a problem. So if someone's got a BMI, I've got one lady she's a star patient of mine. When she came to me, she has proper genetic obesity, been to the obesity genetics service in Cambridge, all documented, proper stuff. BMI is 104. Okay, so managed to get her BMI down to 88 with some Wegovy, and I just changed her onto Mounjaro because now I can in the NHS. And the surgeons have said, look, we can't touch her because they're a small regional service, but they said we can consider a tertiary referral to somewhere like King's or Imperial. So yeah, for her, probably surgery is the answer because I don't have a medication that's going to get her down to a healthy weight ever. But a lot of the regional surgical centres actually have a BMI cutoff for them, and they say above a BMI of maybe 60, 65, they say surgery is too dangerous and we can't do it. So usually it's the other way around. Usually they come to me for NHS weight loss medication so we can get their weight down to a point where they can have surgery. So it's usually that way around.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, Sue. Do you offer routine blood tests like thyroid function as a baseline? had a patient recently started weight loss jabs privately, only to realize she was hypothyroid significantly when my colleague requested blood tests for other symptoms. You request blood tests normally?
So in the NHS, no, because they've usually had everything done by the time they get to us. And privately, usually not either. I ask them for a complete medical history as part of their screening questionnaire. And if they say anything about any medical problems, then I always ask for blood tests that they've already had done and ask for results of those. Or if they don't want to go off and see their GP and say, can I have blood tests done? Then I point them in the direction of one of the many online providers of blood tests, and that they go and get those done privately, because there are plenty of people who'll send you a finger prick kit or send a nurse out to your house these days to get your bloods done. So I send them in that direction if they're concerned. But to be honest, I haven't needed to do it yet.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so next question from Lolo. Given that the licensing for these meds are meant to be prescribed along lifestyle, what avenue is there for the private sector?
Okay, so you can use private dietitians if you want to refer, if you want them to get dietary advice. And I just advise them to sign up with a local gym and get a personal trainer is what I do. I've got the advantage that I'm a qualified nutritionist myself, so I don't need to do that. But yeah, there are plenty of dietitians knocking my door saying, well, Sue, are you sure you don't need help? And if they've got complex comorbidity, say they're wanting to go on Mounjaro and that they've got some sort of kidney disease or liver disease or something like that, and it's really outside the scope of my practice as a bog standard jobbing nutritionist, and they need expert dietary advice, then I have got dietitians that I refer to. But there are plenty out there, and if you just put a shout out on social media saying I need a dietitian to help me with my weight loss clinic, you will be overwhelmed with offers. So not a worry.
Okay, and Lolo also asked, given that tirzepatide is due to be moved to primary care prescribing from next week, do you foresee any issues with private demand?
No. So I may not know what's happening in England, because as you can probably tell from the accent, I'm based in Wales. But I think there are going to be fairly strict limitations on who can have it and in what circumstances. I imagine the BMI setting will be quite high. I imagine you'll need several comorbidities. And I've got plenty of people. You're not telling me that the 1.5 million taking private medication at the moment are all going to suddenly qualify for NHS prescribing. That's not going to happen. They won't have set the criteria that way. So no, I'm not worried at all. And even if there is, some people like the private sector just because of the convenience. And we've got CagriSema and retatrutide on the way in the next year or two anyway. I'm really not worried.
Okay. Sonia asks, what do you say to people who are unable to exercise for whatever reason, like fibromyalgia or arthritis, obesity?
You can only do what you can do. So if you can't exercise, that's not a contraindication to the drug. If you can exercise, it's really important. One thing we didn't talk about is the whole muscle loss business. If you lose weight in any way, so whether it's Slimming World, Weight Watchers, Mounjaro, keto, any of them, for every £4 you lose, £3 on average will be fat and £1 on average will be muscle. And that's the same for the weight loss medications as it is for any diet or exercise plan. So don't listen to the scaremongers on social media going, oh, we found this terrible thing that happens. It does happen, but it happens with Slimming World as well. And you don't see them going after Slimming World in the same way. So it's important to try and do strength training if you can, and exercise if you can. It's really good for you. But if you can't, you can't. It's fine. You just have to do what you can.
I actually had a question, Sue, because you see these headlines with Ozempic babies. So what's happening with oral contraceptives and these weight loss medications?
Yeah, so oral contraceptives are less well absorbed. So the advice is that you should be using extra contraception or change to a LARC or something equivalent while you're on this medication. Slightly unrelated, there was the Bambini study published a couple of years ago now, which looked at the onset of ovulation in women who had anovulatory PCOS. And my friend Alex Myras, who's a prof of obesity in Belfast, managed to persuade a cohort of women that if he could check their bloods once a week for a year, he would get them free weight loss surgery. And he was checking them for FSH, LH, progesterone, looking for ovulation. And the majority of them started ovulating very quickly after surgery, before they'd lost any real weight, because we think these two hormone systems are very closely related. And we can't replicate that trial in Wegovy and Mounjaro because the drug companies won't take the risk, because of the potential risk of those drugs being in the system, and any fetal abnormalities or anything could be correctly or incorrectly blamed on the medication. So we can't do those studies. But yeah, people on these medications get pregnant all of the time. So really, really important to advise about additional contraception and just stop it as soon as you get pregnant, if that happens.
Okay, excellent. So would we as GPs need to make sure that they actually are on additional contraceptives?
Yeah, you need to point them in that direction for sure. I mean, I don't think you can pin them down and inject them with Depo-Provera, or you know, pin them down and insert a coil against their will. But need to strongly advise that they do it and document that very clearly.
Okay, and someone, Bila has asked, the weight is only sustained as long as they are on GLP-1s. What are your thoughts on this, and how long would you continue GLP-1? That's a great question.
I didn't catch the beginning of that, sorry.
He's mentioned the weight is only sustained as long as they are on GLP-1. What are your thoughts on this, and how long would you continue the GLP-1 for?
Right, okay, sorry, thank you. The first bit really put the context in. No, that's fine. Potentially indefinitely. I see this as the same as diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia. You don't put someone on a statin for 6 months and then say, good luck, you know, you stay on it forever. And these medications, I think, need to be long-term. I often talk about to my NHS patients who are crying, saying, what do you mean it's only 2 years? This is horrible. And it is horrible. I think it's barbaric. I talk about, unrelated to weight, in 1995, when I qualified, the big drug of the day was omeprazole. Everybody was it. I was working for a gastroenterologist. Everybody was crying in my clinic going, but I want omeprazole. My cimetidine isn't working. This is awful. And we were saying, terribly sorry, you have to go to a specialist clinic and it has to be prescribed by a consultant. And no, I can't prescribe it for you. And it was the end of the world. And now, 30 years on, you buy omeprazole in Tesco with very little supervision. And that's the way this is going to go. But we're just at the beginning of it. You know, we're back at the 1995 omeprazole stage of this. So eventually, in the next 5 or 10 years, this is going to be licensed for long term, and we're not going to be having these conversations anymore. But right now, that's just where we are.
Okay. And who is it? Are we getting patients who have started?
Oh, Linda, where are you? Right, I can't see that question. I'm scrolling through the chat myself just to see. Okay, does anybody want to shout out any questions while we're waiting for Linda? I'll see if I can pick out any myself.
We are getting patients who have started weight loss injections by private providers with no pre or post injection care. Where do they stand? What is ethics behind it?
Oh gosh, that's really, really tricky. And those providers need to be shouted out, I think, and brought to the attention of someone who can do whatever's needed to either get them to produce the care or to shut them down. It's not your responsibility. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm not a GP anymore. I love saying that. If I was a GP, I would be signposting them to someone else. So don't go back there. Go to somewhere like one of the big online pharmacies or Dr. Sue's Freedom Clinic, and get ongoing care. I would just advise them not to go back there. I think that's all you can do, really, and document that very carefully, because that sounds quite scary. I haven't encountered that, actually. Let's have a look. Contraception on weight loss. We did. So NaOIN, that's the eye changes, isn't it? That was a question. Are there any implications of the rare eye changes of GLP-1s? I haven't seen any implications on insurance coverage that I'm aware of to specifically answer that question. No, it's such a rare thing. I think it's unlikely to be a problem in the mainstream. So let's pick another one until we find out where Linda went. High protein diet. This is interesting. So you don't need to be on a high protein diet. You need to eat the same amount of protein that you do already, and also do plenty of strength training and exercise generally to try and mitigate the muscle loss. But because you're going to be eating less overall, the percentage needs to change. So if you're normally eating 100 grams of protein, you still need to eat 100 grams of protein. But of course, you're going to be eating a lot less of the other things like carbs and fat and hopefully alcohol. So your plate will look different. You need to be focusing mainly on protein and fiber. So protein and veg and whole grains, essentially, and some healthy fats thrown in there. Thinking about
thank you, Sue, for continuing. You're a superstar. I am here. I got thrown out, so continue.
Okay.
You're doing a great job.
That's okay. So yeah, it's almost like I've been in these situations before, isn't it? IT things happen. So look, we talked about muscle mass in part of my talk because I got sidetracked. There we go. The private providers and pre and post injection care. I haven't come across that. That's appalling. Linda, do you want to take over again? Now you've had a swig of your bottle.
So I think we are actually probably toward the end. Another question. That was the NaOIN. I think you mentioned about the rare side effect.
Yeah.
Safi has posted a useful leaflet on GLP-1s. Are there any options for patients who do not want weekly injections?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at that one. It's not licensed, so not really. Orlistat GPs can do, so I don't prescribe Orlistat. I could be talked into it, but I've never yet been asked for it. Rybelsus, I've got one guy. He's an older gentleman. You know, his favourite pastime is having a pint of cider in the local golf club. And oh, darling, I go on flights every week. I can't be taking injections. So for him, I've prescribed Rybelsus, and I think he's one of 2 patients I've got on Rybelsus. He's done remarkably well. Recommended his entire family to me, so they're now all on injectables because they don't fly every week. But I try and steer away from it because it is off license. So we have to go through it very carefully and document it extensively. And I have more regular follow-ups with him just to make sure that he's okay. But he's doing okay on it. Sure. We're going to have orforglipron before long, which is going to be out in the next couple of years, which is going to be an oral preparation. That might be very expensive, though, because you have to put an awful lot more of the active ingredient into a tablet than you do into an injection, which is why they brought out the injections first. So they're probably going to be very expensive. So I think that's my thoughts on that.
Excellent. And I think Bila has asked, how do we get trained in weight loss and lifestyle medicine? So I'll put the link to the course down below, but I'm not sure about lifestyle medicine, Sue. Are you able to expand on that?
Yeah, so if you go to the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine, they've got a website, and they have a lifestyle medicine diploma that you can do if you want to get qualified. You may not need a qualification in it, but we're doctors, aren't we? But you've got to have a certificate, right?
Just collecting them.
Yeah. Collect certificates, and your job stays the same. You don't do anything with them. But if you want a nice piece of paper, I have it because I did it too. Mainly because I'm one of the directors, and the number of people who were not directors of the BSLM who had the diploma and I didn't was getting frankly embarrassing. And I also wanted to be able to write for their learning academy, and you needed to have the piece of paper to do that. So I finally did it in 2021. It's really good. So recommend that if you feel you need a piece of paper.
Excellent. And I just had a question. You can see sometimes on these social media sites, people are talking about microdosing. Have you ever come across that? What are your thoughts on microdosing?
Oh, all the time. I get asked this endlessly. So microdosing, the 2 ways of doing it: either you buy a 10 milligram pen of Mounjaro and then you use it to give yourself 16 doses of 2.5, because that's when you've saved a lot of money, because you're making the pen last 4 times longer. And okay, Mounjaro 10 milligrams is slightly more expensive than 2.5, but you're still way up in terms of your finances. That's using a pen in a manner other than directed. I can't recommend that in a webinar with 48 people listening. The other way to do it is to use the 10 milligrams, but inject the whole dose less often. Still not recommended because the pens don't last more than 30 days. So once you have opened it, you've only got 30 days to use it. So if you're doing it once every 2 weeks, your last 2 doses aren't within the shelf life of the pen. Having said that, people over the country are doing this with very little in the way of negative effects. So if my patients in the Freedom Clinic tell me they're doing it, I sort of say, don't do the take a 2.5 milligrams out of a 10 milligram pen. That's really not cool. But if you want to space out your injections and just not tell me about it, I'll pretend to not notice. So that's how I deal with it.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and we're just coming towards the end. We might need to wrap up, so I'm just aware of everyone's time, but there's still quite a lot of people here and they're just keen to learn more and more from you, Sue. So what are I mean, out of all the GLPs and the tirzepatide, which is the most effective with the least side effects? Which is your go-to?
Mounjaro.
Mounjaro.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you saw in the news a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago now, there was a big headline on a Monday morning. Brand new trial, first ever head-to-head trial. Big announcement in Malaga in Spain. Well, I was actually in the room in Malaga because Lily paid for me to go. Very exciting. 1,000 people on the edge of their seats. You know, what's going to happen? And Mounjaro absolutely smashes Wegovy in every way. So yeah, Mounjaro is much, much better. And we knew that was what was going to happen because we've seen the individual trials, but that was the direct that was the direct comparison trial called the SURMOUNT-5 trial, if you want to look at it. Yeah, so I only prescribe Wegovy now to people who either are nervous because GIP is a relatively new hormone in terms of drugs that we can use to manipulate it, and they say I'd rather have Wegovy because it's been around longer, or people who don't tolerate Mounjaro and they say maybe I'd get on with Wegovy better. Or if they've got heart disease, because Wegovy has a license for heart disease, whereas Mounjaro doesn't. But I still tell them to use Mounjaro usually. But if they say, I'm really concerned about my heart, I'd rather have Wegovy. But 95% of my patients are on Mounjaro.
Fab. You heard it here first from the experts. So that's excellent. And I think the last question, Safia mentions, I understand about this is about setting up your own clinic. What if you don't want to go down setting up your own clinic? Are there many employers or jobs out there in this field?
Yes. There are plenty of people. So the national pharmacies are all run with GPs behind the scenes. I can tell you when I was on Mounjaro myself, my mum doesn't know I was on Mounjaro last year. Don't tell her. I got to a BMI of 27 and I've got dyslipidemia, so I qualified for it. I was going to Asda, and whenever I had a problem, I would message their system and a GP would reply to me. So I think a lot of the big online pharmacies have a lot of GPs working for them. So yes, probably when mine expands, I'll be looking for people so I can go and sit on a beach instead of doing prescriptions. Or as well as doing prescriptions, let's not kid ourselves. So yes, there are employers out there. So if you type I want a weight loss job and I'm a GP into your favorite search engine, I guess you'll find some people who are looking.
Fantastic, Sue. You've been an absolute superstar. Thank you for imparting all that knowledge in this field that actually we don't know a lot about, which is why so many people have stuck on to the very end. This is 1 hour and 20 minutes into it on a hot Thursday afternoon. So thank you so much. We've got the course launching in August. I've put Sue's LinkedIn in case you have patients that you want to refer to her, and she's got the so you can connect with her on that way. Our course is launching and we've put the link in the comments, and everything will be emailed to you via our newsletter. So I think that's it for until another 2 weeks. We will see you in a fortnight. We have some of our partner providers coming up just to talk to you in terms of what to expect on the Uber for Doctors and what sort of patients that you'll be seeing. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we wish you farewell. Thanks, everyone. Bye.